all my worries had gone with that cut, you know.
How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to the Baldcafe podcast. We're here with Rory. We've put up a post of his on Instagram, and it's quite an interesting story. I think it's gonna, give value to those people who are just on the cusp, on the edge. Like, I want to take that step, but I'm not sure how to do it. So, Rory, it's a pleasure to have you on here, mate, having this conversation. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks.
Usually we go right back with, and ask like, okay, where did it all begin and things like that. How long have you been going with the shaved look so far? How long has it been since you took that step?
I think it must be 4 weeks or so. Yeah. 4 or 5 weeks max.
Yeah, I think it was just before the lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
So maybe just the week before, but before weeks.
Nice. You've had chance to sort of, get out there, see people and things like that. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, an important part of it. Rory, how old are you now?
33. Yeah, just turned 33 January. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you're 33. Let's take it back. When did you first sort of see, I'm experiencing this hair loss? What, how old were you then, and how did you kind of discover it for the first time?
The first time I realised it was happening I must have been 17, I think, and around at friends. Yeah, so long, like almost half a life sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So round at a friend's house one night, I think I'd had a hat on or something, I took it off and I went to the bathroom. And I heard one of my friends saying, "Oh shit, man, I think Rory's going bald." And I was like, I remember hearing that, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I was in, in the mirror and that, and I couldn't really identify it. I thought I couldn't even see it myself, you know what I mean? But obviously other people could see, because obviously it was happening to me, so it was obviously happening over a period of time.
So
that was like the first. Discovered. Yeah, so that's when it all began. Yeah.
So we've, you sent me a few pictures, so you can kind of see how it was, before you sort of took that step. But like you said, you're 33 now. This happened when you were 17. So it's been a long, like, gradual process, right?
Yeah, it's been a kind of slow burner, I would say.
Yeah, a slow burner, nice. And it started going at the front here, and I think a lot of young guys, about that age, 17, 18, they might start to see those signs. And I think it's an important point to kind of pick out is the fact that, it doesn't just happen overnight. It's not like you're going to, if you're 17, you kind of think, oh, I'm losing my hair. You're going to wake up in a year's time and be completely bald, right? When you were 17 and you kind of discovered, did it already become a thing that you were sort of like conscious of, or did you manage to kind of just say, hey, it is what it is. Let's just see where this goes and kind of relax about it. How did it play out over the next few years?
So it didn't really bother me at first, maybe for a couple of years, because it was very sort of gradual and slow. And then I remember I was maybe 19 or something, and I was at a hairdresser, and it had been a few weeks before that I'd sort of noticed just sort of starting thin ever so marginally up here, right, around my head. And I remember I knew the hairdresser as well, so I used to go there all the time. And I remember sort of looking in the mirror and was like, shit, she's gonna see it, she's gonna notice. And then I could see in her face, because I'm just a young guy, and you could see in her face she was like shocked. But I was like, well, you should at least say something, leave me hanging here and then stuck in my own head, but that was when that's when that sort of started there. So
right. So
from that point.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No,
it was a couple of years from 17 to 19 when you started to notice, like you said, it was going here at the front, and then it was a gradual just sort of thinning at the crown area, right?
Yeah.
And in that instance, did she, the hairdresser, did she sort of ask you about it? Did she mention it? And did any other people sort of pick it out and ask you about it?
Yeah. So it was she didn't, but friends obviously did, and in my group of friends, I wasn't the only guy that it was happening to either. You know what I mean? So there was a couple others as well. So it was always banter and sort of jokes about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that sort of took away from the anxiety about it in younger years, because we always used to joke about it, and and
you're
say the amount of
in the same boat with other people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, and I think it's an eye opener as well, especially through doing this podcast and sharing a lot of these stories. You were quite fortunate then in that aspect that you did have, some other people that were going through it. But like, as you know, then it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. It's not like you're definitely going to be the only one at that age who is experiencing this. So you said, you sort of talked about it and joked about it, I guess, lightheartedly, with your friends and whatnot. Did it get to the point where you were like asking people for advice on like how to do it? Were you like researching about like what to do about the situation? Or was it very much just, again, taking it in your stride, just, seeing how it plays out?
Yeah, I can't say I've done much research about it. Obviously, I was thinking about it and wondering how young I was going to be when I was going to be, have a shaved head.
Yeah.
That was the thing that used to play in my mind the most, was like, when am I going to have to go for it? And there was at one stage I was like, geez, man, I'm going to be like, shaved not bald by 25.
Yeah.
Like that was in my head, because it's stages of exhilaration and then slowing down, and it was definitely it was almost like a stop start motion
Right.
with, like,
Okay.
with me, and it was odd, and that's maybe why it's taken such a long time to eventually get to this point.
Yeah.
Because I sort of started managing it, and there was a period of time sort of between 20, 21 years old. That time I was like wearing the hat all the time, because I did get really self-conscious about it, even though
Okay.
it wasn't particularly bad at that time
Yeah.
at all, in comparison to obviously later in life.
Yeah.
But I definitely went through a period of wearing the hat. Even in like summer, it was ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think made you sort of self-conscious about it? Was it that fear of maybe someone sort of pointing it out, or do you think that it was just you, just the way you sort of perceived it yourself as like, oh, I think it doesn't look very good, or what was it what were the main like concerns during that time?
Yeah, I think that it was definitely with probably more how other people would perceive it, and how going out and socializing, how then you're gonna fit in. And yeah, it's a strange one, how the mind works around
Yeah.
the fact that your hair's thinning. You know what I mean? And it takes a while. Definitely takes a long time to sort of get your head around, like,
Yeah.
why is it happening so young? Why is it happening to me? But you can say that about lots of different things.
Early on, you were thinking, okay, when's it going to get so bad that I feel like the time is now that I'm going to shave it off, right? So you obviously, your initial thoughts were about, I'm just it's going to get to a point where I need to accept this, and I'm just going to shave it off. What do you think what was responsible for you to sort of think that way, rather than like, okay, how can I stop this? How can I, hold on to the hair? Because there seems to be two sort of, separate camps in that regard, I think, when guys are
For
losing
sure.
their hair. What do you think gave you that, that thought of, right, eventually I'm gonna have to shave it and accept it? Was it influenced through family, through friends, or where did that influence come from?
I think, like, over the last certainly year and a half, where it was sort of getting at critical stage, it was like, it's an unavoidable fact that's going to happen. So that's when I started looking around on the internet and stuff, and came
Right.
across obviously Baldcafe,
Yeah.
and started looking through all this content, and then I was like, geez, there's so many people in the same boat. And when you start hearing other people's stories and reading and relating to it, it just makes it a whole lot easier to
Yeah.
accept the fact that, hold on a minute, it can't be that bad, surely. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's just a big change, isn't it, from having like hair to like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's a huge change, man.
It is, yeah, and it's
um,
because you've had hair for the up until this point, you've always had
exactly.
hair, so it
Yeah.
is a drastic change. But no, I like that point that you said, just seeing other people, talk about it and say how things were like better afterwards and whatnot, just gives you that little seed, that little thought in your mind of like, oh, I've been fearing going bald, but is it really that bad? So I'm
Yeah.
really pleased that that's sort of how you thought about it, and again, like, seeing these stories could kind of help you to have that optimism, I suppose, because there is a point, like you said, when you're 21 and whatnot, where you're literally thinking like, okay, this is really bad. I really don't want to lose my hair. If we take it back, just a little bit, apart from the sort of it going at the front here, were you noticing any other signs of like the hair falling out? People talk about waking up and having hairs all over the pillow, or when they wash their hair. Did you notice any things like that?
Yeah, mostly washing the hair,
Yeah.
definitely when you're like shampooing or whatever, and then rinsing, then you take your hands away and you've got like hairs in each hand, and you're like, oh God, there's more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's surprising how long it goes on for. Actually, you're thinking, how come it's not all gone yet?
It is.
Uh,
Yeah.
So
you see a lot falling out like each time you wash it. I remember I used to actually wash mine like almost every day. Certainly shower every day and wash my hair maybe every day or every other day. Yeah.
yeah,
And it gets to a point, isn't it, where you're thinking, how long am I going to be able to sustain
exactly.
this
Yeah.
amount of hair falling out? Yeah, I can completely relate to that one. And again, it's surprising actually how long it can go on for, before it's really, really sort of noticeable. I just want to touch on again, over the period of time where you said you did wear a hat for quite a while.
Yeah.
You mentioned in our messages, things like I think are you a fly fishing instructor?
Yeah. It's
Okay,
my
cool.
yeah, do it
And you're
all
up
world.
in Scotland, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be a lot of elements, should we say, weather, a lot of weather in
Yeah,
Scotland, right?
100%.
So we're talking wind, rain, things like that, right? So was there a time, you interacting with different people, you said, social, things like that, where it became a point where you were conscious of it and things like that, can you sort of describe any sort of moments that stick in your mind like that, or any sort of recurring things where you would, I don't know, before you went somewhere, you'd have to put the hat on or make sure the hair was right? Any situations like that?
Yeah, man, loads. So kind of in my industry, you're always wearing hats anyway, so flat caps and stuff like that. So
Right.
when I
Yeah.
was out working, a lot of the time it was under. But if you went out without it, and then you seen rain coming, or you're just like, oh, panic. It was always there. You're sort of like, oh no, because it's going to get wet, and it's going to look really silly at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In comparison to what it is now, because
Yeah.
it's you've, like you say, you've styled it a certain way. Sort of like I was slightly going more on this side, so I'd always like sweep my hair this way,
Right. Yeah.
So obviously, if it got windy, then you'd always have sort of longer hair here. It's just, yeah, it's just
It's
a
like
constant worry. Do you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Unnecessary, really.
Yeah, it's just a constant thing that you have to be conscious of and think about, right? And
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to hear when we get onto that. But when you do just sort of shave it, that is a big thing that you notice, just the relief of not having that constant thing that you have to, worry about or have playing on your mind. And that's a big positive of when you shave it off. I think just the relief from that is a massive one, if not the biggest. So as it moves on, right, in the last sort of year or so, like you said, year and a half, where you really sort of think, okay, the time's coming up now. I think I'm just going to go for it. And you mentioned that you'd set a date. I think it was on your birthday or something.
Yeah,
like in January time, something like that. I think it was. But I think
that's right. Yeah.
you'd set the date. And how did you kind of decide, right, I'm going to do it, and this is going to be the time? How did you get to that point where you were like, okay, enough's enough, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, I'd been needing a sort of haircut, and it was like, right, it's getting silly now. Let's just go and we'll go to the barber and just shave it off. And then I sort of stalled on the haircut. I think it was just New Year. My birthday fell on the 3rd, so I was like, that's a really good time. New Year, my birthday, and it was like, right, I'll go and I'll get it done. And I didn't do it. You know what I mean? I found the sort of my psychological in my psyche. It was like, no, you can't, no, not quite ready. But in reality, I really was ready. But it was just getting over that hurdle in my head to just go ahead and do it. I think it was actually I needed to buy a new beard shaver, so I went to the shop and I was like, well, I'll get an all-in-one kit,
Yeah.
And I came home and I gave him a beard to trim, and I was like, you know what, just do it. And I just took it right up the middle, so there's no going back,
Nice.
Don't even bother with the sides. It was just like straight up the middle, and then it was right, take it all off. Absolutely was buzzing. Absolutely
literally buzzing
to do it.
Yeah, no, I love it. And you said, obviously in the Instagram post, you felt, just instantly like a lot of relief. You were pleased that you went for it. Again, it's been 4 weeks, if not more, and you've stuck with it. So just talk a bit about that, right? After you managed to just take that step, and I think it seems like one of the biggest things that helped you, and we kind of talk about that, is just having the tools at your disposal. So, you had the beard trimmer there, and it was just waiting for that right moment. Just on a personal level, I've talked about this before. Was after you could like set yourself the date, and you kind of like didn't follow through with it, which is a lot of people do. When afterwards, did you feel a sense of like disappointment, like, oh, I probably should have just done it, like why didn't I do it? Or and did that having that sort of, I guess, failing to act on you deciding to do it, did that push you more as well, like when you did decide to do it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because it's always in the back of your mind then, it's like, I should have, like, I was going to do it and I sort of backed out. So then you're egging yourself on then,
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to be the next thing. This is it. And by the time that point came, that other period of time passed, it was just a case of, it was just it's a relief then, you know what I mean? But it's just like, I'm not going to let myself down. I'm just gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And
you did.
Awesome.
And you did. And let's get on to that then. So you went for it. You were in there. You had the shaver. You got all kitted out with it. And then what was it like? After taking that step, did you go off and show people? Because again, some people are quite like nervous when they go for it, and they're a bit reluctant to kind of. They still feel a bit like, oh, I'm not sure. Did you feel that instant relief, and did you show it off into the world? How did it play out afterwards?
Yeah, for sure. So I can't remember exactly what day it was I'd done it. It was maybe a Wednesday or a Thursday. And I was buzzing around it. I'm sure I took a video of myself and sent it to my friend, you know what I mean? The feeling was amazing. It was almost like all my worries had gone with that cut,
Yeah.
It just vanished, and I was like, this is good. I was like, actually, I really like it. You know what I mean? I was like, I quite like my head. I'm like, it felt good. And then that weekend, I went out with friends and just, walking confidently into places instead of worrying about, I've styled my hair. It's, still spring. It's windy. It's wild. Going in somewhere and instead of going to the bar first, making a wee way to the toilets for a mirror, you know what I mean, to make sure. And then and that was it. Yeah, just straight out and confident and not a care in the world since, really, at all.
Brilliant. So it is a big change, and as you found, a positive one. I guess it's just 100%. That sense of relief, and it just everything's. You don't have that worry. Everything's just lighter. It's brilliant. So that for guys that are watching, who are stuck in that sort of thing, and they're not maybe sure how to tackle it. Maybe they are also thinking. They want to go for it. They want to shave it off, but they can't quite build up the confidence, or, maybe they got the same worries that you had. Have you got any advice, like just from your experience of like how they can get to that point where they're ready to take that step?
Yeah, I think that, everyone's definitely on their own sort of journey with it and their own path and own timeline. But, looking back to when I shaved it a few weeks ago, as soon as I'd done it, I was like, man, I should have done this. Like, it was just this sense of like, if I'd done it then I'd have had another 3 years to this point, confident, completely on top of my game, So I would say to anybody, just don't overthink it, and don't worry at all about what other people are going to think. In reality, nobody cares about like what you're looking like. Everyone's in their head about what they're looking like on their own, So
definitely,
it's just just do it. Just get out there, cut your head, go out confident. I believe that everybody is in the same situation of thinning hair and losing their hair. Should just bite the bullet sooner than later, because it'll revolutionize your life for sure.
To see you here now, having taken that step, and it's just worked out really well from you is great, because it's exactly what you want to see. And really, if you just take this step and you just kind of accept it, put the fears and the worrying about what other people are going to say or think to one side, and just experience it, get the courage to just go for it. I think it's surprising how good it looks, when you take the thing, you're like, oh, actually it looks 100%. Really good. And that in itself is a huge confidence boost. And you can just crack on then, and like you, just leave all the worry behind,
That's what happens, man. It's been great. And like, it took a while obviously to do, but then once I started reaching out into the internet, and then, like I said before, found Baldcafe and other people that are doing sort of similar throughout the world, it made the decision a lot easier, or it speeded up the decision, from a point of always worrying to just thinking, actually, look at all these guys. They're absolutely like, walking tall after doing it. So it's the best thing I've done in quite some time. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation, man. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
no,
it.
it's been good. It's been awesome.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and thank you and all other dudes out there for paving the way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's all good.
Absolutely.
All good.
So yeah, to anyone listening and watching, this episode of the podcast, there was Rory's story. I hope it's inspired you. I hope it's given you a little bit of a piece of motivation to take action on it. Leave the balding behind, well and truly in the past, and crack on happy. Rory, thanks once again, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.
Yeah, no worries, man. Welcome.
Good night.